What if I told you that the wealthiest people you'll never hear about, the ones who built fortunes while their neighbors had no idea, didn't get rich from flashy investments or viral businesses, but from 7 simple habits so boring that most people dismiss them completely? These aren't the habits you see on social media. These are the quiet, almost invisible behaviors that compound like interest, turning ordinary people into millionaires, while everyone else is still waiting for their big break. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Real wealth isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows, through daily decisions that seem insignificant in the moment but create massive results over time. The ancient Stoics understood this principle perfectly. They called it the discipline of action, where small, consistent steps in the right direction create outcomes that appear magical to outsiders, but are simply inevitable to those who understand the game. Today, I'm going to reveal the 7 habits that quietly make people rich. Not the kind of rich that needs to prove itself with expensive cars and designer clothes, but the kind of rich that provides true freedom, security, and power. These habits are so simple that you'll be tempted to dismiss them, and that's exactly why they work. While everyone else is chasing complexity, the truly wealthy are mastering the fundamentals. The first habit is what I call the invisible investment. Every wealthy person I've studied has one thing in common. They pay themselves first, but not in the way you think. They don't just save money. They systematically redirect money that was already being spent on things that make them poorer. Think about this. The average person spends $4 on coffee every morning. That's $28 a week, over $1,400 a year. But here's where it gets interesting. A wealthy person takes that same $1,400 and puts it into an investment that grows at 8% annually. In 10 years, that coffee money becomes over $20,000. In 20 years, it's nearly $67,000. Same money, different destination. But the truly brilliant part isn't the math, it's the psychology. When you redirect money you're already spending, you don't feel the sacrifice. Your brain doesn't register the loss because the lifestyle change is invisible. You're literally becoming wealthy without feeling like you're giving anything up. This is pure psychological warfare against your own impulses, and it works because it bypasses the part of your mind that resists change. The second habit is the power of boring mastery. Rich people become obsessively good at things that everyone else finds tedious. They master their tax code. They understand compound interest like it's their native language. They know the difference between good debt and bad debt, between assets and liabilities, between what looks valuable and what actually creates value. Here's what's fascinating from a psychological perspective. Most people avoid financial education because it feels overwhelming, but wealthy people treat it like a game where the rules determine who wins and who loses. Think about it this way. If you were playing chess against a grandmaster, would you expect to win without learning the rules? Yet most people are playing the money game without understanding how it actually works. They're making emotional decisions in a logical system and then wondering why they keep losing. The wealthy spend time learning the rules while everyone else is complaining that the game isn't fair. And here's the kicker. Once you understand the rules, you realize the game is actually designed to reward people who take the time to learn them. The third habit might surprise you. It's strategic underconsumption. This isn't about being cheap, it's about being intentional. Wealthy people have mastered the art of looking ordinary while building extraordinary foundations. They drive reliable cars instead of impressive ones. They live in nice homes, not mansion prisons. They understand that every dollar spent on impressing others is a dollar that can't work for them in the markets, in investments, or in opportunities. This connects directly to Robert Greene's observation in the 48 Laws of Power about never outshining the master. When you display wealth conspicuously, you create enemies and attract the wrong kind of attention. But when you build wealth quietly, you maintain the element of surprise and avoid the social pressure that destroys so many lottery winners and sudden inheritors. The truly wealthy understand that stealth is a superpower in the game of money. Here's where it gets psychologically interesting. Underconsumption actually rewires your brain for abundance thinking. When you choose not to buy something you can afford, you're training your mind to see money as a tool rather than a scorecard. You're building the mental muscle of delayed gratification, which is the foundation of every other wealth-building habit. It's like meditation for your wallet. Each time you say no to instant gratification, you're strengthening your ability to make decisions based on long-term thinking rather than short-term impulses. The fourth habit is what I call relationship arbitrage, the systematic cultivation of connections that compound over time. Rich people understand something that poor people don't. Your network is your net worth, but not in the superficial way most people think. It's not about collecting business cards or LinkedIn connections. It's about consistently adding value to people who are playing at higher levels than you are. Here's how the psychology works. Most people approach networking backwards. They think about what they can get from others instead of what they can give. But wealthy people understand reciprocity as a form of investment. They look for ways to solve problems, make introductions, share insights, or provide value before they ever ask for anything in return. This creates a psychological debt that often pays dividends for years or even decades. I know someone who became a millionaire by spending 30 minutes every morning sending helpful articles, introductions, or opportunities to people in his network. He never asked for anything directly, but opportunities kept flowing to him because he had become known as someone who helped others succeed. That's the quiet power of compound relationships. They create opportunities that money can't buy. The fifth habit is profit from pessimism. While everyone else is optimistic about their own prospects and pessimistic about opportunities, wealthy people flip this script. They're pessimistic about their own performance, always assuming they need to save more, invest more wisely, and prepare for setbacks. But they're optimistic about long-term opportunities that others are too afraid to pursue. This shows up in fascinating ways during market downturns. While most people panic and sell when stocks drop, wealthy people see discount shopping opportunities. When real estate crashes, they see generational buying chances. When everyone else is afraid, they're calculating. This isn't because they're emotionally cold, it's because they've trained themselves to think in terms of cycles rather than moments. They understand that pessimism creates the best prices, and optimism creates the best selling opportunities. From a psychological standpoint, this habit requires you to become comfortable with being contrarian. It means developing the emotional fortitude to buy when everyone else is selling, to stay calm when everyone else is panicking, and to act when everyone else is paralyzed by fear. This is pure Stoic philosophy in action, controlling your emotional responses so you can make rational decisions in irrational times. The sixth habit is the art of multiple income orchestration. Rich people don't just have jobs, they build systems that generate money while they sleep, travel, or focus on other projects. But here's the key insight. They don't start with passive income. They start with active income that they systematically convert into passive streams. Maybe they start by doing consulting work, then create a course that teaches what they know. Maybe they begin by flipping houses, then use the profits to buy rental properties. Maybe they start with a service business, then develop products that scale without their direct involvement. The pattern is always the same. They use their time and skills to create systems that eventually run without them. This habit requires what I call strategic patience. You have to be willing to work harder in the short term, to work less in the long term. Most people want immediate results, but wealthy people understand that the best returns come from playing longer games that others aren't willing to play. They're building income streams that will pay them for years or decades, not just this month or this quarter. The seventh and final habit is what separates the truly wealthy from everyone else. They master the psychology of enough. This might sound contradictory in a video about getting rich, but stay with me. Wealthy people have a clear definition of what enough means to them. They know exactly how much money they need to feel secure, free, and fulfilled. This clarity gives them something that money can't buy: the ability to take calculated risks without being paralyzed by fear. When you know what enough looks like, you can be aggressive with money above that threshold and conservative with money below it. You can take entrepreneurial risks with your surplus while protecting your foundation. You can invest in opportunities that might fail without risking your family's security. This psychological framework allows for both safety and growth, which is the perfect environment for building lasting wealth. Here's what makes this habit so powerful. It protects you from the hedonic treadmill that destroys so many high earners. You know those people who make six figures but live paycheck to paycheck because their expenses always expand to match their income. They never defined enough, so enough never arrives. They're wealthy on paper but poor in reality because they're trapped in an endless cycle of wanting more. But people who master the psychology of enough can experience genuine abundance at any income level. They know when they've won the game, which means they can actually enjoy the victory instead of constantly moving the goalposts. This isn't about limiting yourself. It's about knowing when you have the freedom to choose what matters most to you. Now, here's where all 7 habits intersect in a way that creates exponential results. Each habit reinforces the others, creating a system that becomes more powerful over time. The invisible investments grow larger as your income increases. The boring mastery helps you optimize every financial decision. The strategic underconsumption provides more capital for investments and opportunities. The relationship arbitrage creates deals and chances that others never see. The profit from pessimism helps you buy low and sell high consistently. The multiple income streams provide security and acceleration. And the psychology of enough gives you the emotional stability to play long-term games that create lasting wealth. This is why wealthy people seem to have some secret knowledge that others don't. They're not smarter or luckier. They're just running a different operating system. They've programmed their daily habits to automatically move them toward wealth instead of away from it. Every day, every decision, every interaction is quietly building something larger. The beautiful irony is that these habits are available to anyone, but most people won't adopt them because they seem too simple, too boring, or too slow. They're looking for the dramatic breakthrough, the viral moment, the sudden windfall. But real wealth isn't built in moments. It's built in the space between moments, in the daily choices that seem insignificant but compound into something extraordinary. Your wealth isn't hiding in some complex strategy or secret investment. It's waiting in the quiet habits you choose to build today. The question isn't whether these habits work. The question is whether you'll have the discipline to let them work for you. Because while everyone else is waiting for their ship to come in, you'll be quietly building the harbor where all ships choose to dock.